So, hi everyone. So, welcome to the Greatest is Love podcast. Today we have with us Amara Honeck. So, I'm going to preface this though that I'm dealing with COVID brain. I just got over COVID, so this is the first time I'm going to be using notes, and hopefully the last time. But Amara is somebody that's already been very important to my life. She has been a great guide for me. Amara is an author, teacher, certified spiritual director, and shamanic practitioner. For over a decade, she's been involved in consciousness exploration, shamanism studies, and spiritual development practices, specializing in the transformative potential of altered states of consciousness and teaching others how to connect with their highest wisdom. And I can vouch for this. Amara's been remarkable. Amara, I have a question for you right from the get-go. I'm going to preface this with one more thing, and that is I wrote a book, and that is what's inspired these podcasts. And then we started talking, and you brought up something that was so vital and so important that I wanted to immediately integrate into the podcast. So I wrote a book called Holy Spirit Rising, The Vital Return of Our Divine Mother for the Healing of Our Planet. That's a mouthful, but every word matters. It's just basically about over 3,000 years ago, they removed our divine mother from consciousness. You got it. Thank you. See, I wasn't going to do that. That's so great. Thanks, Amara. And when they removed our mother from God, they completely altered the way we look at God, the way we look at each other, the way we relate to each other for all these years. And so at this pivotal time in history, it is absolutely vital that she is returned into our consciousness. And she goes by many names: the Holy Spirit, Shekinah, Gaia, Sophia, universal energy. There's, chi. There's so many words. But you and I, when we started talking, you pointed out that we didn't just lose our divine mother. There was something very important we lost when that happened. And you go ahead and share that.
So I have this theory, and I work with people who have dealt with a lot of suffering, trauma. And the more I talk with people I work with, they a lot of times bring up their childhoods and their parents. And what I started thinking about was that even as adults, I am now 56 years old. I still want and crave a mother figure and a father figure. So if you had a poor relationship with your mother and father, or they're deceased, or it was traumatic, we still crave that even when we ourselves are parents, or we're older now, when you would think we don't need that anymore, right? We've achieved some level of, we hope, wisdom in our lives.
Yes.
So I
But it's
started
so vital.
exploring.
Like, I have lost my parents and I
Mhm.
miss them every single day.
Yes.
I keep wanting to
Yes.
pick up the phone to call my mom or share a joke with my dad. So, or
Yes.
ask for advice, right?
Yes. And again, you would think, because I know you have children, I have children,
Mhm.
so you would think that we would be beyond that, right? Because now we are the
Yeah.
mothers and
Mhm.
the fathers in our lives of our children. But I just noticed that as people would talk, it was often, I started kind of getting this almost a level of anger over the level of suffering about the parental situation. And so what my theory is that we always, maybe it's an archetype thing, but we always seem to still crave that, the compassion, the unconditional love, the seeking of wisdom, the person who bails us out when we've made a mistake and tells us everything is going to be okay. I feel like we just all still kind of crave that. And then we look at our own lives, and if we don't have those figures in our lives, it can cause a lot of complications. We can lack self-love, and then we maybe bring those traits into our relationships with our own children, because of what we lacked, or we
Yes.
overcompensate in the other
Mhm.
way. So when we were talking about your book and the divine feminine, I also had an issue with the divine masculine, even though divine feminine has really been cut out of our lives a lot.
Consciousness. Yeah. Our
Yes, our
conscious lives. Yeah.
consciousness for a long time, and it's almost now part of the human psyche, because it's been so long that
Yeah.
that element has been cut from us.
Uh-huh.
And religion plays a part in the Divine Mother, but it's a different type of Divine Mother. I'm talking more of a parental, almost a parental love. And when you look at the Divine Feminine, for example, if we focus on that, you think of the mother as nurturing, compassionate,
Yes.
wisdom filled, strong, but
Mhm.
has and can be very powerful and outspoken and all of those things. There's nothing wrong with that, but she has a peaceful existence in her child's life. There's,
Yes.
you can go to your mother and sit in her lap and everything will be okay. What
Yes. The
happens when
feminine
you,
principles that she
yes,
brings, and that
yes,
our world is lacking in general right now, is the feminine
exactly.
principles in politics, in economics, and absolutely
Yes,
all manners. Yeah.
yeah. And and so I started exploring, well, if you can't have your parents for whatever reason, whether they're alive, but they're just, I don't ever want to say they're bad parents. I just want to say we are all flawed
Hmm.
and we raise our children in the best way that we can using the tools we have. And then if we come from generational parental problems, you
Yes.
just keep passing that to your children. So once someone has sort of awakened to this idea, my concept was, where do we go from there when you say, I want my mom or I want my
Hmm.
dad, in that way? And I think we come into this world, it sounds, maybe sounds odd, but I have done a lot of consciousness work around this.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like even as souls coming into this world, I feel like we come in with certain archetypes in our psyche that we already know exist, and they begin to develop and transform and around us in our lives. And we all, for example, recognize the archetypes of parents, of mother and father. Those are two
Yes.
of the strongest archetypes there are. So when we lack that archetype in our human consciousness, where do we go? We
Yes.
suffer. We
Yeah.
suffer in our relationships with our own children, with our personal relation. We just, co-workers, we start to really suffer because we are, whether we know it or not, I believe that we are still seeking that type of
Hmm.
comfort and love and connection.
Yes.
So,
Yes. So it is the divine parents that could come to our rescue, but
mhm,
they aren't there because the mother was taken away. And the father, we've always had the wonderful father figure,
mhm,
but to be a father is very relational. You
mhm.
can't be a father just walking down the street as a guy. To be a father, you have to have a child, and to have a child, there has to have been a mother to birth the child.
Right.
So that the divine parents were taken from us, and what a loss for people who didn't have it in
Mhm.
their own parents, to not be
Right.
able to turn to the divine parents. So
Right.
that's the huge loss to the world,
Mhm,
not
mhm.
having that relationship, and also that relationship of equals that we as parents ourselves. I think we'd be better parents if we had divine parents, as an
Exactly.
example. If we
Exactly.
knew that was just the way of the world, that we came in this way as
Mhm.
equals to work together and bless the world together. So yeah, I think that you're really onto something there. The getting back divine parents would be so stabilizing. And
Right.
it's the yin and yang balance again, which is
Yes. Yeah.
stabilizing and
Yeah.
balancing.
It's a,
Yes.
yeah, it's a balance.
And with my own parents, I went to my mom for certain things. I went for my dad for other things, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they were a great team. But
Mhm.
there was, you had your certain things you knew that dad would be really great at, and then that
Yes.
mom would be really great at. And
Yes.
so that is something we need to bring back. And when we bring
Mhm.
back our mother, that is a huge gain for us, that we
Mhm.
get our divine
Exactly.
parents back, right?
Right. Exactly. And if we have, if we feel that we are not the best mothers that we can be, we can tap into the Divine Mother through
Mhm.
consciousness work. And we can say, I'm having this difficulty with my child. I want to steer him or her in the right direction. I'm asking for divine guidance, because we can get
Yes.
that, but then we can, because we can have an idea of how we think we would handle the situation, but we may have our flaws and our our blind spots, we
Hmm.
can based on our own lives and our own wounds. But
Right.
the divine mother, to me, the divine mother sees it all. And when we can enter a consciousness state where we are in our higher wisdom, we can access that higher divine mother wisdom and really be of benefit to our children, who then will be a benefit to their children. And we start this amazing ancestral cycle with us being the ancestor. Like right now, you and I are
Yes.
ancestors, and we're not deceased yet, but we are still
Yes.
ancestors, and we are creating a line of the people who have come after us.
That's
And we have the
beautiful. Yeah.
ability to change so much and change they call it the mother wounds or the father wound. We have this
Yes.
ability to cut that right now and start making changes with our own relationships with our children.
And that is what's so beautiful with the work you do is so many people, the world has gotten so busy and we're so on our phones all the time. And electronics pull us away from genuine
Mm-hmm.
relationships constantly. And so people aren't even tuning in anymore or thinking about that there's more than just what meets the eye on this world, on this
Mm-hmm.
planet. That we have got, that there are worlds within worlds. I mean, this is people don't even go there, but that there is tremendous guidance available for us and so
Yes.
much help. And so when you become more conscious, you tune into these energies.
Mm-hmm.
And that would really be tremendously healing because we do make better choices, right?
Right.
When
Right.
we do this. And so so you were talking about the childhood experiences, positive and negative, that they definitely make us even crave divine parents more, even as adults,
Right.
not just as children.
Right.
Um, and so why do you think that we need divine parents? It becomes even more pronounced when there's been a loss or a trauma.
Because and these are all of my opinions based on my own perspectives of the world, my own perception of the world, my worldview. But when we experience trauma and we don't have the parental support to get us through that trauma, whether we're ill or we're a youngster in a bad relationship, whether
Mhm.
there's drugs and other things involved, and we have no one to help steer us, we continuously move into this cycle of suffering. And that's why I said before that I started almost getting angry when I thought about, wait a minute, why are we suffering so much? There has to be a way to tap
Yes.
in with divine guidance and help us to smooth the path for ourselves and our children. So I feel that with with this with the trauma of childhood, if we're not given the guidance early on by parents, it just continues to snowball all our lives. I think we've all seen people who have suffered and not recovered from childhood things. And it even happens, it's not just the great big traumas. It can be one of the big, huge traumas is losing a parent, of course. And the other traumas, though, are maybe social traumas with school and friendships and things like
Mhm.
that. Those are very traumatic for us as we're growing. But then there's also the trauma that comes up when we don't know our real parents. So, for example, my mother is my real mother, but my father was not in my life. So I was adopted by my stepfather. So
Uh-huh.
there's still, even though I had a stepfather, there still is that divine wondering about
Mhm.
the other father,
Of
the birth
course.
father. And so
Yes.
when you start getting into situations with stepchildren and step parents and adoptive parents and those sort foster care, those sort of things, we start to lose the actual birth connection parents, and that can also be sort of a traumatic thing where again being able to connect with divine parents can help us have some light on the topic and move us around and help us to be able to see all the chess pieces on the board.
Yes. Because I
Hmm.
think that a lot of people don't have a strong sense of self, and that creates tremendous suffering. It is our foundation from birth, and self-esteem issues. Like everybody I know suffers them,
Yes. Yeah.
and there is also the sense of um, feeling bad for things we didn't know that we didn't know now, and we know better now.
Yeah.
So the guilt and all that, and
Hmm.
so to have that divine love and saying, but you're growing,
Yes.
you didn't know then what you know now, so
Right.
you're taking your next step up the ladder of consciousness, and you have to leave that behind, and you make amends where you can, but
Right.
forgive yourself.
Yes. Forgive
And
yourself.
yes, yes. So, and that is the divine love, the unconditional love we get from our divine parents
Hmm.
and what
Absolutely.
people need to build just their entire foundation on. So
Hmm.
I think that's something I hope you do a lot of, if you offer up maybe classes or something, because it just feels like something that you're very tuned into and you could help a lot of people with.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I think it would change the world if people could connect with their divine parents and
Oh, I
feel
totally
that
agree with
feel
you.
that love. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Because I remember reading a while ago about a guy, he tried to kill somebody at like 13. He got into a knife fight and he was just so angry. And so he was in juvenile jail,
Hmm.
and he then became part of um, an experimental English class where everything they read helped build self-esteem, self-worth. So all the stories they read, and he became a changed individual. He said that before he didn't hesitate taking a life because his life had so little value to him. So he
Right.
couldn't understand how somebody else's life had value. And once he started to see all his potential, everything he could be doing with his life and his self-worth, he wanted to make a difference. He actually
Mhm.
completely changed his tune. So I think that it does start with a self-love, a healthy kind of self-love, not, vain or,
Right.
egotistical kind of self-love. And that's what divine parents would bring. They
Hmm.
absolutely love us so unconditionally. I think any of us that have had spiritual experiences where we experience the divine, it is pure love. And you
Hmm.
just know
Absolutely.
that is the most healing, the most
Hmm.
incredible feeling I've ever felt in my life.
I agree.
So, yes, yes. Well, my goodness, you're so onto something. And I'm really glad getting our divine parents back, because that is the balance, the rebalancing of the world is the
Absolutely.
understanding that
Yep.
comes from mom and dad working
Yes.
together in
Yes.
respect to each other. So now we
Yes.
have a different respect for each other. It's just
Yes.
everything.
And and when you see the respect of the mother father in the human world with each other, the
Mhm.
children see that, and then that's how they grow, and they respect their own loves,
Yes,
their own people. They have their loves in their own children and the people around them. There's a whole different type of connection when you treat that as more of an equal with your spouse, when you're
yes,
more of a partner. And
yes,
in this divine, it's a divine marriage when your partners
yes.
like
Yes. And that was what we had at the get-go, in Genesis
that.
1. It basically said that we were made in their image.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And then they added other parts later
Yeah.
to the Bible that really kind of ruined that. And
Yes.
that's and in countries where there is more equality amongst the male and female, a more true partnership, their
Mhm.
happiness factor is way higher than in any other country,
Right. Right.
because that is what we need. Equality in general brings more happiness. People don't know because we've been so taught to be competitive and be one up on everybody, but it's
Mhm.
actually equality, shared love, equality, and those emotions that bring true happiness. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, you know what? And it's so wonderful. So I want to hear more. I'm sure I'll interview you again and have you on again. But you were also going to share a meditation, because part of the work we can be doing is doing meditations or consciousness work
Right.
or shamanic practices. Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about what I'm going to share at the end here.
Yeah. So when you and I were talking, I went ahead. I very much am in love with binaural beats. And the way binaural beats happen is you play a one play a specific sound frequency in one ear and a different
Mhm.
one in another ear, and you can mess around with the frequencies a little bit to achieve different brain wave states, and theta and delta and alpha. Well, we want to be in a theta state when we do higher consciousness work. So when you were talking about this, I thought, well, how could I help her listeners to maybe achieve what does that divine mother look like to them in the consciousness space, or feel like? Do they have a question for her? And so I did create the guided meditation. It's with theta signals in it, and it's
Uh-huh.
guided. So I also believe in the ancestral art of storytelling, the shamanic art of storytelling. So I use a guided meditation story of my own that I journeyed, and I had my own story, and then I just add a few little details to make it clear for everybody, and then I move you through the guided meditation, and then you have about I think 12 minutes where you just
Wonderful.
can sit with the Divine Mother, and she'll, when you think of Divine Mother, a lot of times the Divine Mother does present herself in a way of your own belief system. So if you are Catholic, like I was raised, Mother Mary might come to you, or one of the female saints might come to you. And if you're Buddhist, you might have Tara. And if you're Hindu, there's a number of female goddesses that might show for you. But you also sometimes might just find an ancestor waiting for you at the end of that, a female line ancestor, which
Ah,
is very cool when that happens, because you can feel this connection genetically to this being. It's like a fingerprint to them of
yes.
your own family lineage. So I created that for your audience to listen to, because I thought if they listen to this and they thought, well, how can I connect to my Divine Mother? That could be a first. It's a kind of an easy way into that meditation. 4 to 7 minutes, you move into a theta state without even trying very hard. The
Mhm.
signals work it for you. And then the storyline gets you the rest of the way there for your experience. And you can keep using it over and over with different results. You can go in with different questions. You can ask for healing, all sorts of things. You could just ask, what does it feel like to feel the Divine Mother's love, and just feel that run through your body and know what that sensation feels like.
That's so
So you can
beautiful.
do
Yeah.
everything you want to try to perceive, you can do in that journey.
That's wonderful. And thank you so much for giving us something to actually
Yeah.
start working with. That's what I want to leave my listeners with my all the time, is not just talk about something and then when they end the podcast, they're all, now what do I do? What's my first step?
Right.
What's my next step? I
Right.
wanted to give them some of the first steps,
Yeah.
to take, so that, because it really, to change our world, it requires action,
Mhm.
requires us changing what we're doing,
Yes.
how we're going about things, how we're seeing things, in a healthy way, in a way that actually brings joy. Not that it can't, but sometimes present its challenges. It always
Mhm.
does. But it's, the joy is so worth it. We're going to go the right direction, but it takes initiative. It takes doing something.
It does. It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And for people who have difficulty thinking, is this real? Is this concept? How do I even know I need this? I do suggest that if someone just sits in stillness, even the skeptic, if the skeptic sits in stillness, and I mean real stillness, no social media, no computers, no pets, no people around you, and you just sort of check in from your head to your toe in your body, so you know how you feel, and then think of your mother, your physical world mother, and where do you feel that in your body, and how does it feel, and what memories come up, and if a bad memory comes up, where do you feel that in your body? And that's how you know you can stop being a skeptic, because it is affecting you. It
Hmm.
is in your body. You're holding it somewhere. And so
Yeah.
that's when you can kind of, I call it our second body. This is our main body, but our spirit body. You can kind of just like meditatively lift up a little bit, and then feel into, well, what does the Divine Mother feel like when I feel this in my heart? Like I'm feeling something in my heart that feels painful, emotionally painful. And you can kind of lift up and you can ask, what does the Divine Mother feel like in this same situation? And
Hmm.
you can feel that start to relax out of your body, and that's why you have to be in very good stillness so you can really feel it. And that's how I think people who are unsure of this, or unsure of a Divine Mother or a divine energy, can really tap into that and see that it probably is affecting them too in their physical world lives.
Yes, I agree. That's really wise. That's a really nice way to put it. And I know that people, when they've journeyed, they'll go, well, when is it my imagination and when is it something actually happening? Well, you will sense when it transitions, because it
Yes.
seems to be at the beginning, it can be your imagination directing you.
Right.
And then when all of a sudden, whoa, this isn't me anymore, you feel it. I mean, it is me, but it's
Yeah. It's
it's
like a
not me
higher part
directing.
of you.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a higher part coming through.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so just trust yourselves. And sometimes it
Mhm.
does take time. So be patient.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with how much is going on in our lives and the ability to find that stillness. You
Hmm.
know, that is something that we have to make the time for. And we're
Yeah.
not taught that anymore because we're kept so busy.
Hmm.
But finding stillness is the biggest blessing. It's not doing nothing. It's not wasting time. It is quite the opposite.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, thank you so much. Like I said, I'm going
You're
to have you back
welcome.
again, I'm sure. So thank you for sharing. And I will put up your website at the end too, so people can see where to find you.
Okay.
And just bless you and thank you, Amara.
Yes, thank you so much, Sylvia.